Morning, Kate.
Hi, Cheryl. How are you? How's your week been?
Good. Busy as usual. And how about yours?
It's been great. I've been dipping in and listening to the Kick Sugar Summit, which I've been really enjoying, and listening to some of the conversations that have been going on in and around that, which have been really inspiring. So that's really lifted
Yes.
my spirits.
Yes, Florence Christopher, she does a brilliant job every year with her summits. And she has a wonderful lineup again this year. So Summit 2024 looks very promising. So, and I guess you watched Bitten's presentation as I did.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Proper
Yeah,
groupie.
me
Well,
too.
obviously we both are because we trained with her and did our holistic medicine for addiction course with her.
True.
But I particularly loved this session because she was just so clear on the addiction piece.
Yeah. Yeah. As she says, she just focuses right in on addiction. And it's yeah, it was a brilliant discussion. I really enjoyed it.
I know there's so much noise out there. There's so much information that sort of dances around what the issue
Mhm.
is with some of us, and it focuses on diet, it focuses on nutrition and emotional eating and all the rest of it. But actually, for some of us, the underlying issue is the addiction. And as long as we're targeted and focused on that, that's where the difference is. That's where the magic happens, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, because without addressing addiction, nothing else works. I mean, it doesn't matter what eating program you're under. If you're always in the diet mentality to solve your problem, nothing happens. It's when you address the addiction that moves things forward. And I mean, so what does that look like? Dealing with addiction, what does abstinence mean? And I think maybe today we should just talk about abstinence. What is abstinence? What does it look like in a person's day-to-day life as an addict? What is abstinence? Any
Wow.
thoughts on that?
Do I have
Throw it
any
to
thoughts on
you.
that? I don't throw it open, like go for the jugular, I think, in
No,
terms
we'll go
of
back and
question.
forth. Because I mean, I have my ideas about what it means, and you have yours, and maybe they're the same. I don't know.
I know we kind of touched on this last week when we were looking at abstinence versus recovery, and that sort of concept that abstinence is the ticket into the show, but it's not recovery. But I know when both you and I talked about it afterwards, we felt perhaps we hadn't explained abstinence and what it actually
Mhm.
means, and just why it is so important in recovering from any addiction-based diagnosis. So
Mm.
I think for me, abstinence has been built around some very simple daily practices, which are on rinse and repeat. So, as a starting point for me, I would define abstinence as not, well, I don't like defining something by not, but I'm going to say it this way: it's not eating sugar, it's not eating grains, and it's not eating the dodgy seed oils that have been really refined and gone through all those industrial processes. And turning that on its head and building my meal plan out of healthy fats and proteins and a very small amount of carbohydrates. So I keep the carbs down below 20 grams, which suits me. Some days I don't even eat carbs. So I think that's my starting point. But I don't know how you define abstinence.
Yeah, I think what you described there, and when I think about it, is abstinence is kind of like a prescription for healing. And and prescriptions come in a variety of different extemporaneous mixtures. So what you describe is a form of abstinence for you. Abstinence can look very different for another individual, but the foundation of that prescription is avoiding the seed oils, avoiding the sugar, the processed foods, and the flour, and the grains. That's
Mhm.
the foundation of how you build an abstinent program for yourself. Now, how you mix that up is up to you. But for me, my program is pretty much the same as yours. I have fewer than 20 grams of carbohydrates, sometimes none. Sometimes I'm just eating meat or sardines, as we've talked about before. And that, it is that abstinence. yes, because I'm abstaining from those deadly foods that produce an unwanted response. When I eat flour, sugar, uh, seed oils, it triggers things in my brain, my addicted brain, and I have to stay away from those things. So that's abstinence for me. Um, planning, planning. You mentioned, you have your meal plans. I think planning is extremely important in making sure that one stays abstinent. I can't just go around willy-nilly going into the fridge and deciding on the fly that I'm just going to eat this today. I mean, luckily my fridge, of course, is stocked with everything that I need. And that's another part of being abstinent. So it's making sure that your pantry and your fridge is filled with the things you need to be optimal with your health and your food sobriety. But you can't just leave things to chance. You can't go to the grocery store and hope you put the right things in your shopping basket. You make a list and you stick to your list and you stay out of the middle aisles. So those are abstinent techniques, you know. Yeah.
I love that abstinent technique. And you've really hit on something that I think is absolutely key, that when it's like why abstinence is so important in recovery is like when your lifestyle and what you're eating is contributing to a very unbalanced blood sugar, then it's going to really lower my capacity to deal with the external stresses that come in and out of my life. And a low capacity for stress, I think, is probably what's why people relapse, and also probably why they become addicted in the first place. And so if you can learn to balance your blood sugar,
Mm.
then and move into a sort of balanced recovery, then you also learn how to balance your capacity for stress, which I think is an absolutely fundamental key part to anybody's recovery. You know, I think what starts out, and I don't know, I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of journal, a lot of self-inquiry around that. And I think a lot of people, or I'm generalizing, but no, I'm going to make it say I think that addiction is very dissociative. It's
Mm.
like not knowing how to find a point of safety in myself, not knowing how to live with myself, um, you know, living in a sort of constant state of revved up, panic and bit of confusion, a bit of fear, because I didn't learn how to actually sit and be very comfortable in myself and who I am. And then sugar pops up and comes along, and you can temporarily change that inner discomfort because it soothes, it balances out those feelings of discomfort,
Yes.
albeit just for a fleeting moment, the
Yeah.
further on you progress into the addiction. But that substance in that moment is making me feel very balanced and centered. And the problem is that I'm always, looking externally for a substance that's going to make me feel better, and that's the problem. I haven't got an internal capacity to deal with any of the stresses that are going on in my life. And so part of the recovery work that I have to do is to learn how to deal with those external stresses and learn to have more flexibility in my response to life. But whilst ever I am reaching externally for the sugar and for a substance that's going to cause me problems internally, biologically, in terms of my response to the situation, I'm going to have a problem. I think that's probably quite confused. I don't know if that made sense,
Yeah.
what I was saying.
It does. It does. I mean, basically, the fuel that we're putting into our bodies is affecting our brain capacity. And if we are consuming foods that are sugar and are like things like sugar and flour, things that are very inflammatory, they affect our brain function. And as long as we are in a state of dysfunction in our brains, which includes things like fogginess and a reduced capacity to deal with anything. I mean, how often have you been in a sugar stupor and tried to read a simple novel, and you're rereading the same pages over and over again, trying to trying to even understand what it is that you're reading. So, you know, those are things that heal when you eat fewer carbohydrates, when you take your food prescription and you say, okay, I'm not eating the sugar anymore, I'm not having the flour anymore, I'm not having the seed oils, and I need to do this because I need to heal my brain in order to function properly with the rest of my life.
And that's what I find so exciting. And what you explained so well there is that it's biological. This capacity piece is biological. It's not down to mindset. Oh, I'm addicted, so I've got to do something about moving into recovery and all the rest of it. Actually, in the first instance, it is a biological response, which is actually thrilling because it means that, you know, biologically, we can seek to repair the damage that we've done internally. You know, this dysregulation in our nervous system, this affected stress response that we've got, and that is all biological. And it all comes down to this question of balancing our blood sugar. So when we're in a constant state of putting those sugary foods and those grains and that flour into our mouth, and it's causing our blood sugar to spike and dip, what it's doing is triggering a biological response in our body. So by not ingesting those substances, we won't have that biological response in our body. So by that, I mean, it is entirely in your biological and physical control to make a difference in terms of the addiction, especially in those early stages.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that happens is that we talk about how it affects us in the body, but oftentimes people don't realize that the body is actually attached to the brain. What happens throughout your body, like when we say your blood sugar affecting your body, we mean it's also affecting your brain. You know, there is that disconnect that happens with a lot of clients. Oh, well, you know, my blood sugar is up. Yeah. So how's your mind feeling? Are you able to cope with stress when you're in this biological situation? Are you able to think straight?
Yeah,
I think
so
it's
it becomes a question of how can we support the body to really tolerate more stress, because the stress is a thing that's moved us into the addiction. And actually, it's even more problematic, I think, when these connections started when you are quite young. So,
you're right.
you know, particularly with sugar and the sweet things and stuff, it's
Mhm.
that early and chronic exposure to the drug that's
Right.
problematic,
Right.
because, you know, you've it's like you have this young body and then you develop this relationship with this other thing, this sugar, this entity, which is now getting in the way of you and your relationship with your body. So that when, I don't know, you go through puberty and you start to feel discomfort and hormone floods and everything else that goes through your body, you never learn how to actually deal with that. You learn instead to consume this sugar, this thing that will change the way that you're feeling. And that starts to rewire the brain, that habitual, that reward pathway, you know, all of those ways of self-soothing and all the rest of it. You just never learn that capacity to deal with those big feelings, that emotional response, and those stressors. So when you're abstaining and you're walking away from the substance without any recovery in place in how to deal with all that stress in your body, I think relapse becomes almost, I hate to say it, but I do think it's inevitable because stress is always happening in your life
Right. That's right.
around that. So the question becomes really what can you do to support the body to tolerate more stress? And the number one thing, best way to start is by this piece around abstinence.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If the people have asked, you know, is it trauma or is it stress that's turned me into a person with a food addiction? You know, because oftentimes we do talk about stress and how it affects us, but that is not the cause of our addiction to certain foods. It's not. I mean, it's a wired thing in our brains that happened a long, long time ago.
It's a
Yes.
primary disease, actually. So, you know, and
Right.
I know, I always remember one of the things Bitten Johnson said in our training would never ask why. You never need to ask why for an addict and all the rest of it. So, which is why it drives me back to looking at this as a biological problem and asking how nutrition can support the adrenal glands and
Right.
how nutrition can help us balance the blood sugar, because it's the blood sugar dips and spikes that greatly affect the adrenal glands and our nervous system,
Mhm.
which becomes really, you know, dysregulated when
Mhm.
the blood sugar you know, dips and spikes, you have an adrenal response. That's biology. And when you have that adrenal response, you get large amounts of adrenaline pumping through your body. That's a stress hormone. And it goes into your bloodstream, and you respond by going into that fight or flight capacity, or a stress response, which is bringing up all those feelings of, you know, almost like panicky or feeling
Yeah.
really stressed and really restricted around that. But it's not your brain, it's not your mind, it's not a way of thinking. I mean, that is a response further down the line, but the primary response is biological. These things that you're experiencing, these thoughts and feelings, are a biological response to hormones whirring around the body that are caused by the blood sugar spikes and dips, which in turn are caused by what you're actually ingesting. So point number one, get that stuff out of your body, and then you can deal with what's left.
Well, not only is that food, the sugar and the highly processed foods and the flour and the grains, not only are they bad for your blood sugar, but they're also not providing any nutrients to your mitochondria. And that's where your energy comes from. That's where your energy is built. And if there's nothing in the mitochondria, you have no energy for anything, which is why some of our clients come to us, they go, can't do this. I'm so tired. I can't go for a walk. I don't have the energy. And this is not just an attitude that they come with. They literally have no energy because they are not eating the proper way. They're not eating wholesome foods. They're not eating the meat. They're not eating the fat. No, they're preferring other things. So,
But I love that because it's so like, it's so fundamental, isn't it? And yet we think, well, I'm eating all the time. But what you're saying is what we're consuming, it has no nutritional content whatsoever. It's not food, it's a product. And that's the difference. So learning to reorient yourself to eating the foods that is life-giving, really, at a most basic level, is absolutely key. Now, how you're going to do that? Well, you know, people come to us, and I really don't want to focus on the food with them because it you know, it is part and part. You have to figure it out for yourself. You know, we can guide, we can say, you know, a ketogenic plan will deliver the results that you need. We can say, use the glycemic index to make sure you're choosing the right sort of combination of vegetables or whatever it is that you want in terms of your carb. You know, we can give tools and suggestions on supplements and lab works, and we can make suggestions around that. But fundamentally, if you're not willing to make changes yourself, there's nothing that you or I can really do around that. Have you ever experienced that with clients or method?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I had a client who had a daily habit of having 3 chocolate bars in the middle of the day. And she wasn't willing to give that up. And it was a very difficult thing for her to get through. So, for her, she was okay to do low carb for the rest of her eating meals, but this chocolate bar thing was very difficult. So we started with, how would you feel about just, instead of eating 3 chocolate bars, you eat 2 3/4. And so she was willing to do that. And then as the weeks went on, we cut it back and we cut it back. So it was not an ideal solution. She was not the type that we could rip the Band-Aid off. We had to work in small increments. So yeah, it's very hard. And, there are also it's ethnicities, where pasta or rice or whatever is a big part of how they eat. So how do you deal with that? So yeah, it has to be a program that works for the individual. And it's not just, the physical, it's the social.
And how
Everything
do you
has
get
to be
beyond the
factored
part
in.
where they come back to you and say, oh, it's just too hard, I can't do it, I can't do it. And that's very real. You know, it's
Oh
like a
yeah,
basic thing.
definitely.
dose of the F-its. I'm not going to say the F-bomb word, but you know what I mean, when it really is too hard. And you read out that super bit. Was it from Chris Palmer last time? We're talking about meeting people where they're at in
Where
terms
they
of
are,
that.
yeah.
And that the first thing that we do is look for ways to create more energy and to give them more energy in terms of the recovery program that we're doing, so they can look to make these changes long term. But I think the thing that people don't realize is it's not instant. And the other thing is it's an inside job. And the third thing is, it takes work.
Yes. It's not a 2-week thing. I'm just
No.
going to eat this way for a couple of weeks and everything's better. And this is for life.
Mm.
It
And
is for
how
life.
do you think, how would you respond to people? And some days I can feel like this very much when you say that abstinence is for life. I mean, that can almost be a trauma in itself, can't it? In terms of, if you are so used to feeling this stress in your body, these feelings of discomfort, and dealing with it by ingesting something sweet that takes away those feelings and soothes, and I'm turning around and saying, well, abstinence is going to be the key to your recovery, that is quite a statement, isn't it, for people to actually take on board? So how would you meet people's red dog or resistance
Yeah.
when you hear that?
Well, I think it always comes down to one day at a time. It's, if it's helping the client understand that you don't need to look 10 years down the road. And, how can I go without ice cream for like a year? And for some people for a week. So you do have to, I don't like to say be in the moment, but you do have to take it one day at a time. Like, listen, today, I'd love to have some ice cream, but I'm not going to have it today, maybe tomorrow. So it's always a day at a time, because it's so overwhelming. It just seems so unmanageable when you look at, years of doing this. I mean, 5 years ago, I quit drinking alcohol. There was a time that I thought I couldn't go out a night without having my wine. I didn't think about 5 years down the road. I just thought, well, today I'm not going to have any wine. And the next day came and I'm not going to have any wine. And I've done the same thing with the food. It's just today.
Mm.
And most people can manage today.
I love that. And that simple statement that you shared, not today, but maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. It allows for the possibility, and it's much gentler than saying that. Because the thing with me is, if everybody says you're not doing that and you're not doing it for the rest of your life, well, I'm afraid it sets up a response that is in the opposite direction that I'm off, and all the
Nobody
rest of
tells
it.
me what to do.
I know, well, that's the reality of it, crazy as it is. But again, picking up on that all or nothing thinking around that's it, that's the end of that. No, actually, and the same with abstinence. That is what I'm doing today. And you said about not being present moment living, but to be honest, to me, increasingly that seems to be the answer in the response to it, being very physically aware of where I am in each moment in the day, and anchoring myself in that has been so hugely beneficial to me, because I think I spent my entire life living 6 inches above my body, sort of somewhere up here, and not being physically present and in my body, which has made such a profound difference. None of this could I have done without getting the sugar and the grains and the dodgy seed oils out of my body. And I had a good 2.5 year period where I was absolutely living absolutely spot on, with no relapses, nothing. I thought, this is it, I really cracked it. And then I had an external stressor which really, really threw me around financial insecurity, which is one of my big triggers. This is part of the work that we do together, is identifying personal triggers. And it threw me, and I began to pick up again. And it was difficult, to be in that role, to experience this. But I'm just being very real in the moment with that I'm not saying that you will never experience relapse ever again in your life, although that's what I would like to be able to claim. And again, I'm not saying that abstinence is what you need for the entire rest of your life, but it is what I need today to deal with for today, and to how I get through today. So I have a clear brain, so I can work effectively, so I can make good decisions. And just, it's more than that, isn't it? Just really experience life on life's terms without the confusion or the pain or the emotional pain. I don't think anything goes away. I think it's probably still present somewhere in my body, but I don't pay as much attention to it.
Right.
You know, this choosing to boost blue and focus more on blue dog, you know, that recovery part of our brain
Definitely.
has made a profound difference.
And I think too, when it comes to food, if we begin to think of it or to understand that it is just it's fuel. It's not entertainment. It's not meant for anything other than to support our life. And we better put the good stuff in there because we want to have a good life.
Well, that's where I guess the magic is, finding what it is that gives you a good life, what it is that you enjoy, you know, and there's processes to learn around that. I've done, I don't know if I said this before, but journaling and self-inquiry work, listening to the red dog, finding what the blue dog, you know, enjoys, and building that recovery around that has been absolutely fundamental in creating a life where I'm fully present and experiencing it. I'm not numbing out or wanting to dissociate from what is actually in front of me. My story, you know, my stressor, I think, came from my early adoption. You know, I was carrying something very much in my body that constantly made me feel alone and in discomfort and with a lot of physical and mental and emotional pain around that. And I never, you know, the easiest thing was to eat, even from being tiny, you know, from being 2, 3 years old. I used to steal biscuits and steal food. I can still remember the pop of sweetness from Halib Orange vitamin C tablets on my tongue, which I used to steal. And you know, rosehip syrup that we were fed as I was fed as a kid. You know, for goodness, that's like 3 rose hips and ½ pound of sugar in each teaspoon. You know, I was trained from an early age to really associate those things with comfort. And it's like training your body that something external all the time is going to make you feel better, when how much more profound is it to recognize that we have this container and we are the contents within that, and we can find out ways to self-regulate and really, you know, relieve the stress and create more flexibility in our response to stress. And it starts with not ingesting substances that are going to cause our blood sugars to spike all the time and dip all the time. And when it dips, that it triggers that release of hormones, that stress hormones, those adrenals that make us feel shaky, that can make us
Yes.
feel panicky. And if
Yeah.
it comes from not eating that stuff, then I want that.
Mhm. Yep. Fascinating. Fascinating. You know, I think next week, I mean, I know that we talked about this last week about what is recovery. We were chatting about recovery versus abstinence, and I don't really think that we really talked about it in a proper way. And how would you feel about if we did a deep dive into what recovery actually is?
Actually, I think that makes perfect sense. It's a really lovely follow on. It's like broadening, because we've done abstinence this week, so following it through
Yeah.
with what recovery is. I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'm up for that.
Okay. Well, that sounds good to me. All right. So I'd like to thank our viewers for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And that's it from me, Cheryl.
And that's it from me, Kate. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.
You bet. Bye.